Hello, everyone. It is so good to have you with us today. We are so excited to have you joining. I see some of you have already found the chat. Go ahead and say hi to us. Tell us where you're from. What are you so looking forward to in today's workshop, if you want to add that addition. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Michelle Jones. I work here at FullPlateLiving, and I'm here with Amy Hannes, who is also one of our FullPlateLiving team members, and Trish Smith. And Trish has been with us. I think this is your third time.
I think so.
Yeah, and we can bring in Trish back because her food is so good and she's a lot of fun to have with us. So before I read you a quick bio on Trish, Amy's going to have a few announcements.
Welcome. Yes, it's so good to see so many people already joining in the chat, and the chat area is where you will want to ask your questions. So if you have questions, find the chat, ask them there. We'll flag them. If it's something that's kind of immediate, we might jump in and ask Trish a question while she's cooking. But for the majority of them, we'll probably wait to the end. So find the chat, say hello, tell us where you're joining us from. We have people from all over, and that's the beauty of being something on the web and being able to join from anywhere, but that's also sometimes a challenge. So just know that if we have connections issues, give us a second to refresh our screens and our connection. But if you have issues seeing or hearing us, the first thing to do is to refresh your connection as well. We've also found that the Chrome browser works very well with the service that we use to host these workshops. And you can always try a different browser if your current browser doesn't seem to be connecting as well too. Sometimes if you're watching this from work, there can be challenges there just in firewalls that they have set in place. So sometimes even a different connection, whether it's a cellular connection versus a Wi-Fi type connection. So just know that. And we are so happy to have you here with us today. And I cannot wait to see what Trisha's cooking up for us. And we also, of course, because this is cooking, we will have recipes. So hold on to your seats for those. We will be sharing those after she kind of gets through the cooking demonstration for us today. So more to come on that. And also, number one question that usually gets asked, will we have a recording of this? And yes, we always have recordings of our workshops. We will be sharing. You should get an immediate email after the workshop with a recording link, and then we will, of course, share it in your FullPlateLiving membership and your next email from us. So more to come there.
Perfect. Thank you, Amy, for all of those reminders. We love technology. When technology works real well, when it's a little weird, it's a little weird. But we will get through this. We will have a recording. Even if you have challenges watching us today, you can still see us. All right. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Trish Smith. Trish is a proud advocate for the benefits of a high-fiber lifestyle. She has lost 80 pounds by making healthier lifestyle choices and shares that passion as a certified lifestyle medicine educator. She loves encouraging and assisting participants in achieving positive health improvements, including weight loss and life satisfaction. Thank you so much for being here with us, Trish. We're going to go ahead and leave the screen so that people can see what you're cooking up for us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle and Amy. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys. Hello, Full Plate friends. As Michelle shared with you, my name is Trish. I love FullPlateLiving. I think it is just the most universal way to focus on how we could get healthy fiber in. So today, nothing's different. So a fun fact about me is I have 4 girls and I have 5-year-old twin girls. So a lot of times the recipes that I will share with you, I try to throw in some helpful batch ideas or how to make these maybe a little bit more family friendly if you have picky eaters, or if you just might be a picky eater, that's cool too. Also, as Amy and Michelle said, you will get these recipes at the end, so feel free to throw any questions in the chat and we will try to get those answered. We are going to kick off our cooking with dessert. Yay! Because it's summertime and I don't know about, we have people from all over the place, so it may not be hot where you live yet, but I'm in Southwest Florida, so let me tell you, it has been hot for a while. So I am going to share with you a super customizable frozen treat idea. So it's going to start with the humble banana, okay? super cost effective, very accessible, and you can turn it into lots of different flavors. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start peeling our bananas. Now, I like to use a banana when it's not too ripe, but also not too green, because we're going to freeze these. So we want them to carry some of their own sweetness. But, you know, if you just get eager and your banana's still a little bit green, that's okay too. You can still use it. So just going to cut these 2 bananas, and we're going to start by slicing them into pieces. Okay. The cool thing about this is you can make as much or as little as you need for your household. But the other cool thing is that since this is a frozen treat, you can make extra and then always save it for later. So we're going to just finish slicing these bad boys up. And then next, we're going to take a baking sheet that's lined with parchment paper, okay? And we're just gonna lay these down. Now, if you wanted this to be perfect, you could use like a smaller pan or dish so that the bananas fill it out perfectly. You know, I am sort of a go with the flow cook. So if it lines up, that makes me really happy. But if it doesn't, I'm not going to waste too much time on it. But so we're kind of just going to line this up here, because what we're going to do next is we're going to give it a little smash. Okay. Now, what's super fun about this recipe is if you have kids, or if you have anyone you want to get in the kitchen and get cooking with you, this is a great hands-on one, because say you wanted to have 4 or 5 different varieties of this, you could. Everyone could cut their own banana, and then they could top it with their favorite things. Okay. Oh, I got a little in there. So we're just going to continue to line these up like so. It probably would be helpful if you have all of your slices the exact same. Mine are not, but that's okay. Again, cooking should be fun. It shouldn't have to be perfect, right? Okay, so as you can see, we kind of just have our bananas lined up. So I have an extra piece of parchment paper right here that I'm going to lay right on top of my bananas. Now, here's the fun part. Now, depending on if you're having a really good day or a really bad day, but if you ever just kind of feel like you want to let some aggression out, let's start. We're going to take anything with a flat bottom, and we're just going to start to smash our bananas down. All this is going to do is kind of going to keep it level, but also it's going to help fill in any of the gaps. Now, another thing you could do is if you had a rolling pin, you could use a rolling pin, but also any flat surface works. Now, it's kind of like if you were going to make your own smash burger. Everyone gets to decide how smashed they want it. So, kind of just going through here, smashing our bananas to make them as flat as we can. Okay. Then the nice thing about the parchment paper is it peels right off. Okay. I'm all about anything that'll save us time and mess in the kitchen. So our bananas are just flattened now. Now here's where you get to be very creative with how you want to make your sweet treat. So we have a couple different options here in nut butter. So we have peanut butter, we have almond butter, we also have tahini. So if anyone is unfamiliar with tahini, we're going to use it a couple different ways today. Tahini is ground sesame seeds. So we know we take peanuts or almonds or cashews, grind them up and make peanut, almond, or cashew butter. Tahini is just ground up sesame seeds, and it's the seed butter alternative for nuts. So anybody who has a nut allergy or they can't have those, tahini is a great alternative. So here's where it's fun. You could pick any variety of these that you want, but we're going to go ahead, since my kids requested this, I'm going to go ahead and use some peanut butter. So we're just going to take our nut butter and we're just going to drizzle it. Now, obviously, depending on how many bananas you use will determine how much nut butter you use. Also, since this is going to be primarily for my extremely active 5-year-olds, I'm not going to be too worried about it. Even though we know that the bananas fit on the fiber water side of our plate and the peanut butter does not. But again, those 5-year-olds literally never stop until they fall asleep. So we're gonna go ahead and just spread this evenly. Now here's what's cool. Say you wanted to do multiple batches and you have someone who's not a peanut butter fan, you could go with tahini or you could go with sunflower butter, whatever the case may be. Okay, now the trick is to get all of the sides covered. And we're gonna spread that out. Okay, next, just to get real fancy, to add a little bit of crunch, I'm just gonna add a few peanuts to this as well, okay? Again, thinking creatively, you could do anything you'd want with this. You could think of another fun fruit that you like. What I would do if I was making this just for myself, I would slice up strawberries. I'm a big fan of a peanut butter and jelly. So one of my favorite foods, one of my favorite junk foods before I started doing Full Plate Living was those good old Uncrustables. Not really anything in there is great for us, right? Or does it fit on the fiber side? So I have come up with lots of other creative ways to keep that peanut butter and jelly flavor while making it more Full Plate approved, okay? And then what I have here is just some melted dark chocolate. And last but not least, we are gonna take our dark chocolate and we are going to, again, this was a little bit more drizzleable before, but we're just going to spread this around on top, okay? So there is a couple other ways to do this to make it a little bit easier to spread. If you have the time, you can freeze it before you start to drizzle your chocolate, and that will kind of help it be a little bit neater. But considering we don't have time in our cooking show today to stop and freeze, we're just showing you how to do it the messy way. So if anyone wanted to substitute this, there's any other substitutions you could use. You could also forego the chocolate if you are not a chocolate fan. We're going to go ahead and drizzle this last bit over here. And then all we're going to do at the end of this is we're going to pop it in the freezer. And depending on, you might think it would freeze up really quick, but we want to get it so solid frozen that we can cut it and then you can store it in individually cut pieces. Okay? So here we go. Like I said, it could be prettier, but it's going to taste good. So here's our finished product. This we're going to pop in the freezer, and then we're going to hop on over to our next recipe. I know my kids will be very excited when they get home to know that that treat is ready for them. All right. We're going to switch gears here now, and we're going to move on over to one of our savory recipes for today. And that is going to be a simple high fiber falafel. So I don't know if any of you have ever made falafels or had them, but we're going to kind of pivot right over here because we're going to use our food processor. So the main ingredient in our falafels is actually chickpeas. So we know in Full Plate, we love our beans, or our legumes category. So anytime we can add more bean dishes in, we're going to be doing an awesome job for our fiber intake. So we're going to start with 1 can of drained and rinsed chickpeas. Okay, we're going to add those right to our food processor. Next, we're going to take 1 medium diced onion. And next, we're going to grab 2 garlic cloves. or you could always measure your garlic with your heart. It's up to you. And we're going to add 1/4 cup of cilantro and 1/3 cup of parsley. So I have some sad news. The cilantro that I purchased was not in very good shape. So we're going to have to substitute and only use coriander in our falafels and save the actual fresh cilantro for our next dish. But technically you should be adding fresh cilantro and fresh parsley. So to this. So, and then next we're going to add, our good old tahini. So here is where we're going to introduce the tahini again. So sesame seed butter. We're going to go ahead and we're going to add 2 tablespoons of our tahini right into our food processor. So another thing that I really like, because I always try to eat healthy and I try to encourage my family to do the same, are recipes that I can have some of it prepped ahead of time so that when it's lunch or dinner time, I don't have to start everything from scratch. So these falafel bowls are another great example of that, because you can whip up your falafels and then turn them into so many different meal additions or power-ups. Okay, so we've got our tahini. Next, we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. I'm just going to eyeball that because we're grinding it. Next, we're going to do 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne. So again, I'm just going to eyeball that. My family actually really likes spicy food, so you could always adjust that. If you're sensitive to spice, you could leave it out entirely. So next we're going to add our coriander, and that's going to help take the place since we don't have our fresh cilantro, which is kind of sad, but that's all right. So we're going to add in our coriander. Next, our cumin, ground cumin, 1 teaspoon of that. And again, remember, you will get the recipes at the end with the measurements, but a tip I like to share with people is, depending on the size of your food processor, you maybe could get away with doing a double batch. What I have found is usually 1 batch at a time works best in your food processor. So what I typically will do is I will make 1 batch, clean it out, and then make 1 more, because again, I'm feeding a bigger family. So that's just a tip for you on your food processor side. So we did the cumin. Next, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. Now, I have a couple substitutions for you guys here. If you wanted to make this a little, you wanted to omit that. You could use oat flour or gluten-free flour, or what I actually am going to use today, and I really enjoy, it's chickpea flour or garbanzo bean flour. Okay, this is Bob's Red Mill. Depending on where you live, the best bet might be ordering it on Amazon or any local health food store. My local grocery store, which is called Publix, if you're familiar with Florida at all, you've heard of it. It actually will carry it oftentimes. But again, any type of flour will work, equal parts. I've made this with oat flour as well as the chickpea flour, and both work great. Last but not least, we're going to add some fresh lemon. Okay. Simple as that. Now, I'm also a big fan of anything that I can do in 1 pot. So this, we're just using 1 food processor. So we're going to go ahead and give this a couple good pulses, and you may need to stop and sweep down the sides. And here we go. Maybe here we go. I think I have my food processor on backwards. That's why. Maybe I don't. You would think I don't use this machine very often. All right, let's try this again. I will say this is a newer food processor, hence my What did Michelle and Amy say in the beginning? We love technology, right? But we also love kitchen gadgets. Okay, I think it might actually just be my lid, so hold that thought.
I was going to hop in and tell you my food processor does that too. You have to pull out the blade.
Yes, I think we got it. I definitely had it on backwards, friends. So
excellent. Yes. Yay. I do have a quick question since I did interrupt for a second. How much coriander did you use in place of the cilantro?
You know what? I didn't measure it. And if anybody was watching, I didn't measure it. Technically, the recipe calls for 1/4 teaspoon. I definitely used more like a full teaspoon, maybe even 1.5 teaspoons, because I didn't have the fresh cilantro. So what I would recommend is having the fresh cilantro. It is much better. But this morning when I opened it up, it just was not fresh enough. So we omitted it. So I added just a little extra coriander to make up for it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm going to hop off now, let you blend everything up.
Well, maybe you shouldn't, because you're my good luck charm for my my blade, my machine here. And once you get the machine working, it works beautifully. So I'm going to go ahead and try and show you guys what the falafel batter looks like. So we're going to still have a little bit of texture in there. Now, this is preference. If you want a super smooth falafel, you could pulse it or puree it a little bit more, but you can kind of see, if I had a super fancy camera, you could see even better. But there's still going to be a little bit of texture in our falafel. Now, here's where the fun part begins. There are lots of different ways that you can shape and cook your falafels. So, again, I told you guys that I have a couple 5-year-olds who really enjoy food, and I try to make food fun for them. So something that I have been doing lately, which might sound crazy, but it's really fun, and I'm going to show it to you guys today. I'm also going to show you the other traditional ways to cook your falafel. So I have very short cords here, so we're going to show you, and you guys might be wondering what this little red thing is. You can probably guess. This is a mini waffle iron. Now, I promise you, this is super fun. We are going to make a falafel waffle, okay? What's cool about this is, again, it gets people involved. And in my case, it gets the kids involved in the kitchen. I'm just going to put 2 scoops of our falafel batter right in our mini waffle iron. And I'm going to close it. And we're going to let that bad boy cook, okay? Now, not everyone has a mini waffle iron, and not everybody wants their falafel shaped as a waffle. But, so for those of you who want other traditional ways of cooking it, and this will be in your recipe, my favorite way is to just take a cookie scoop, okay, like about this size, and scoop all of the falafels out on a piece of parchment paper, okay? So you can scoop them out, put them right on your parchment paper, like so. And you can bake these in your oven, or if you have an air fryer, these cook up beautifully in your air fryer as well. Now, I always have people ask, well, what temperature do you cook it in your air fryer? And full disclosure, I have 2 air fryers. I have one in the back here, this lovely dual basket. And then I have a traditional air fryer that's a solo basket. They cook at about the same, but they're slightly different. This one gets hotter. So I always try to use the same temperature that you would use in the oven, which for our falafels, that is 375. So I would say, depending on the heat of your air fryer, go anywhere from 375 to 400. But what you're going to find is in your air fryer, they're going to cook quicker than they would in the oven. Okay, so instead of cooking these for 25 to 30 minutes like you would in the oven, these will cook in the air fryer anywhere from, I would say, 8 to 12 minutes. Again, kind of depends on the speed of your air fryer. Also, if your air fryer, you're turning it on cold, or if this is like your second or third batch you're cooking. Okay, so don't be afraid of your air fryer, and these aren't very sensitive, so you can pull the basket out, you can check them, you can give them a flip. You don't have to, but you always can. Okay, so just scooping these bad boys out, and then you have lots of options on how you want to bake them. Okay, all right. As you can see, our waffle over here. Oh, we're gonna check. I shouldn't have checked it. See the waffle, you do want to be a little bit more careful. I may have just messed up our waffle, but that's okay. I have more batter. I can show you how the waffle works. Okay, but here we go. Here is our falafels. Now, you can pop these in the oven or the air fryer, but because my air fryer is so loud, I'm not going to turn these on. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move these into the freezer to get a little bit firmer before we cook them. Okay, now I have done this both ways. I have done it freezing and I have done it not freezing. They both work. So that's what we're gonna do. So I also just remembered what usually works best, because we have no added oil in this falafel recipe, is usually your waffle iron will work better if you give it a quick spritz of any kind of cooking oil. Okay, so just a quick one, it's a mini, but I think that will help it not stick. So we're gonna give it, we're gonna grab a fork and see if we can salvage the peeking that I did on our falafel waffle. Oh, we might be able to. Check it out, friends. I salvaged it. Now, a falafel waffle. And don't laugh, it does have a gingerbread man on it. But there you go. It really does work. And see how quickly that cooked up? So we're going to go ahead and show you one more with just a pinch of cooking spray so that way it doesn't stick. Okay. Take our blade out here and we're going to scoop our falafel into our waffle iron. I know I'm going to have so many questions about the waffle, and that's okay. So to be perfectly honest, I made these waffles for a class that I taught a couple years ago, and one of my participants actually sent me a picture, and she said, she showed me that she put her falafel in her waffle iron, and I was hooked after that. I thought, this is so cool and so fun. So we will answer all the waffle iron questions at the end if you have them. So we are now going to move on to our third and final recipe, which I can't say is my favorite. I really, really enjoy all of these recipes that we've done so far, but this one I can also say is a great summertime recipe. So we are going to make a Mexican street corn inspired salad. That would be such a great power up for barbecues or for just a summertime dinner. Or you know what I love to do with this? I am a big fan of one bowl meals, okay? Like grain bowls or salads or anything that I can somewhat prep ahead of time, grab, and then it's a complete meal in one bowl. Now, it's okay if that's not your favorite way. So you can use this as a side. There's lots of options, but all right, here we go. We're going to get started with our street corn. So we have our corn here. 3 different ways that you can prep your corn. Buy corn on the cob and you can roast it, you can grill it, you can boil it. Okay, however you want to prepare it. The other two options that save time and are even more cost effective, you could buy frozen or canned. Okay, we learn in Full Plate that we want you to eat your fiber-rich foods. So if you don't have the time or the access to go get fresh corn, roast it or grill it, and then make the salad, there is nothing wrong with a frozen or a canned option. I do recommend, if you use canned, that you drain and rinse it. Okay. What I have here is actually frozen corn that I cooked up and then chilled. So this was frozen. We cooked it, then chilled it so that our salad's ready to go chilled. Okay. Now I don't have this recipe memorized, so we're going to make sure I'm not messing it up. So we've started with about, let's see, this is actually 2 pounds of frozen corn. Okay. This is 2 pounds of frozen corn. And next we're going to add 1 diced red bell pepper, about 1/2 of a red onion diced. A great tip for red onion, if you have anybody who's sensitive to them, my family loves pickled red onions. And the great thing about pickled red onions is it still gives you the color and that flavor, but the bite is a lot more toned down. And so feel free to always substitute this to a pickled red onion or a sweet onion if you prefer, or a green onion. The options are endless. Next, we're going to add diced pickled jalapenos. Again, same with this. If you want to skip the jalapenos or turn up the heat and go fresh, go for it. And then we have all that I could salvage from my fresh cilantro. It's a lot less than we would traditionally want to use, but we're going to add it anyway. Another thing I want to talk to you guys about, some people call them herb scissors. I like to call them my kitchen scissors. So I love using any kind of tool that saves me time. Okay. I love chopping my herbs or certain things with my kitchen scissors. I will even chop up my salads sometimes with my kitchen scissors. I will chop up my kids' pasta noodles, you name it. Another thing I use these scissors for, and my husband laughs at me every time I do it, and he thinks it's just crazy. I cut homemade pizza with scissors. I actually learned that one from my mom, and it's something that stuck. So, and it's great. You throw your scissors in the dishwasher, you're good to go. Okay, so next, here's our salad. Next, we're going to make our dressing for our salad. So we're going to start with 1/3 cup of mayonnaise. And again, there are lots of substitutes and alternatives to the mayonnaise. I do a lot of plant-based options. So I have actually made a couple different versions of plant-based mayonnaise that are going to be lower in fat. I've done it making it out of tofu, also out of cashews, also a combination of the two. So there's lots of different alternatives to traditional mayonnaise if you wanted to use them. Next, we're going to use 1/3 cup of Parmesan. And because this guy has a little, we're just going to, again, did I say 1/3 cup? I did. You can use as much or as little as you wish. Again, for my plant-based friends out there, I also will make homemade Parmesan out of chopped up almonds and nutritional yeast flakes and garlic and salt, and you grind it all up and you make a great alternative to Parmesan. But again, I try to pick these recipes for you guys to make them customizable to fit for your preferences or your eating patterns. Okay, next we're going to add our lime juice. I do prefer to use fresh lime or lemon juice if I'm making a dressing. If I'm making something, like, oh man, what's an alternative? Like a soup, or say you needed a lemon juice just to add a little bit of acidity, you could get away with using the concentrate, but it does make a big difference using fresh when it comes to something like this. So next we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, and last but not least, a 1/2 teaspoon of chili powder. And just salt to taste. So we're just gonna add a pinch of salt. I would say this is maybe even less than 1/2 teaspoon, or about 1/2 teaspoon. And we're gonna give this a stir. And then we're gonna add it to our salad. Give this a nice toss, and you have got a colorful, bright, super fun corn salad. Now, I mentioned to you that I'm a big fan of 1 bowl options. So something that I like to do with this dish specifically, it's great as a dip, it's great as a topping, it's great as a side. But what I like to do is take your favorite greens. I'm a big fan of kale. I know not everyone is, but I shred my kale in my food processor, which makes it a lot more tender. I would take a big bed of kale, and I would take my favorite legume. For this recipe, I would most likely use edamame or pinto beans or black beans. And I would add that, at least a 1/2 cup, probably a cup, to my kale. And then I would use my corn salad as the dressing, as well as additional toppings. And then boom, I have got a whole meal right there in a bowl. Throw a piece of fruit on the side, or throw a piece of our frozen bark on the side, and we're good to go. Guess what I forgot, friends? Our waffle. I'm burning our falafel waffle. But the good news is it survived. It just got nice and crispy. Our gingerbread man lost some of his head, but that's okay. So as long as you don't forget that your waffle is cooking, you're set. So, all right. What we're going to do now is I'm also going to show you real quickly how I would prepare or eat the falafel as a full plate meal. So we can take our falafel waffle, or however you want to prepare it, and just cut it right in half. And I like to add things to lettuce wraps. Okay, it's a great carrier, and it also fits in the 75% zone of our plate. I added cucumbers, tomatoes, a little bit of feta, and then our falafel waffle. Okay, and then grab a side of your corn, and looky there. Look at how bright and colorful this plate is. And we have really done a great job of filling lots of fiber, lots of antioxidants and nutrients onto our plate. And it's all still fun, fresh summertime food. Okay, ladies, I'm going to turn it back over to you and open it up for questions.
Man, I was going to say, I am salivating. I'm so ready for lunch. I was like, I'll be right over, but we live in different states. Man, that sounds so good.
Yes. Guess what I'm going to be making tonight or tomorrow?
Falafel waffle.
Yes.
I love how someone said, say falafel waffle 3 times. I was like, that is so funny. It's just so funny to know.
It is. It's hilarious. I love that. That is wonderful. We do have a couple questions. We don't have a lot. So at this time, before I move on to the questions, I'm going to go ahead and share our handout. We want to make sure that everybody can have the recipes. So we'll do that. And now I should be able to go through all the questions. So let's do that. Here's the first question.
Okay.
How can you cut pizza without picking it up?
Oh, this is a great question. Okay.
I was thinking I would have my my oven gloves or something on to pinch.
To be perfectly honest, so I have a pizza pan. A pizza pan, you know, it's got like the holes in it and it's a circle. So what I do is you can have a spatula or you can have an oven mitt, and really all you need to do You could even just use the scissors to get right under your crust and you cut it like a pie. And I don't know if any of you have ever experienced this, but with a knife or a pizza cutter, it's hard to cut it on your pizza pan, right? Or it like cuts through, or you're sitting there going over it 4 or 5 times and it doesn't cut through. And I like to put lots of toppings on my pizza. I'm a toppings girl. So the scissors just cut, I'm telling you, cut right through the pizza and cut it like a pie. And it works great for me. So I hope you guys will try it and see if it's a new favorite for you too.
It's definitely a fun tip. I like it. At some point, I'm sure I'll try it. I use kitchen scissors on a lot of different things. All right, here's the next question. How many ears of corn would be roasted for this recipe? If you're
That is another very good question. So the recipe that I'm using calls for 3 15-ounce cans. Okay. So that would be about 45 ounces of corn. So it depends on how big your ears of corn are, roasted ears of corn. But we do know that you buy 4 ears of corn, you think you're going to get a lot of corn off of that. You're not going to get as much as you think. So I would guess about 6, at least 6 ears of corn. But again, it kind of depends on the size of your corn. So we'll go with about 6.
Okay, perfect. And then if you have leftovers, you can always just have them as corn on the cob for a different meal.
Absolutely.
I've even taken, like, if you have extra just ears of corn and cut it and then freeze that, then that's just corn for later.
Great idea, Amy. I love batchable things. So actually, before I go to the next question, the corn salad, how long would you be able to keep that in the fridge once you add the dressing?
Only about 4 days. So what I would do with this is, like I said, I right now have about 4 salads in the fridge ready to go because I like to have, I typically use that as my lunch meal. Like I like to have some type of a salad or a 1 bowl vegetable heavy, fiber rich meal good to go. So I would treat this as like, I would prep it for lunches for the week. So the only thing, this isn't savable, freezable like the other recipes are, but I would say you're good for about 4 days. The reason I say that is because even though it's stressed, the corn, the pepper, the onion, nothing's going to lose its texture. Like say you had cucumber or tomato, that might get a little soggy, or if you had fresh greens, that would be either something I would want you to keep separate or bring together only when you're ready to use it. But probably goes on your preference, but I'm going to say about 4 days for the corn.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Here's a question about air fryers.
Ooh.
I think I need an air fryer. Could you recommend a reputable brand, reasonably priced? Are they you get what you pay for appliance?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I have bought 3 air fryers. Wait, let me correct that. I have purchased 2 air fryers. My first air fryer was a gift from a class. And it actually sat on my shelf for over a year because I had no idea how to use it. And all of the instructions sounded daunting. But what really helped me utilize my air fryer was I kind of threw out the rule book. I started using it to reheat things. I started using it to cook things like the falafel, or say we're talking about pizza. It heats up pizza beautifully. I would just turn it on about 375 to 400 for 2 minutes, and then I would check it. So the kind of air fryer that I currently have is the Ninja Dual Basket. When I bought this, it was a lot more expensive than it is now. So I can say we use it all the time, and it has kept up beautifully for years. I do know that if you have access to a Costco, they do sell it at Costco now, and it has come down in price. It's going to be on the higher end. I've had great success with it. The other one that I've purchased is Gourmet, or Gore, if you've heard of that brand. Gourmet, but I think they changed one of the letters to make it their brand. Again, it's a much more reasonably priced air fryer, and it's the single basket. I also happen to buy that at Costco, and it also works great. So I would say the higher end would be the Ninja Dual Basket that I can speak to and I know works great. The other one is the Gourmet, or however they spell that one, from Costco, and I want to say it's under $40.
Yeah, I know we bought one from Walmart years ago. I want to say it's been at least 5 or 6 years, and it's their cheapest brand. So it was like around $20, and we're still using it. It has definitely, I'm sure it doesn't crisp things quite as perfectly as the nicer ones, but it's doing the job for us. So I think go with your budget. Go with what works for you and makes it reasonably priced for you. I don't think you have to go crazy with something super nice. Although now I'm going to look at that Ninja now that you mentioned it. Because I like the other idea.
I totally agree with the mindset in a cabinet for a long time before I ever pulled it out. And I did start mine initially just reheating things, and it does crisp it up nice instead of just in the microwave where it kind of might be a little softer. It does phenomenal. I love French fries. I always would do oven fries. It does great for that sort of thing. Yeah. I would say probably the one tip I do more often now when I cook in it is I preheat it. So just like you would your oven, preheating it before you stick it in. And I agree, probably 400 is about what I always just keep mine on. And then you just have a little, kind of like an old school timer, and just turn it and then check it every now and then.
Don't be afraid of it. I think that would be you can always open the basket and see how crisped up something is. I have yet to burn something in an air fryer whereas I've burned things in the oven. So I think it's less scary than baking personally.
I could not agree more. And the cool thing is you can cook at different temperatures depending, or what I have found is I can just cook more volume with the double basket. Yeah. So, but you have both options. If I wanted to, roast some vegetables on one side and then like air broil some homemade French fries, I could do that at the same time. And the other thing, again, I live in Florida and it's hot. It doesn't make your house hot. And I do believe it uses less energy. So it's really a win-win all the way around. So if you haven't gotten into the air fryer game yet, I highly recommend.
Yeah. And it too, I think it's just my husband and I at home. I know you have a lot more mouths you're feeding all the time, but even for us, the small one, we can do a little bit larger batch and have great leftovers. But I agree. And no matter what your household is, there's one person or 10 people, it's still a great one.
It is great. And especially for apartments where you don't have a lot of space, maybe where you can't fit in a full oven. I know one of the questions asked that I just saw is, let's see, where did it go? What features should somebody look for when they're looking at an air fryer? And I think you mentioned some of those, Trish, that I really liked. Just the idea of the dual basket allowing you to be able to do two different things. So if you are trying to do two different things at once, that might be something to consider. Other than that, like Amy said, it's just a button. It's just a button.
Yes, it's super simple. This one here is semi-digital, like part of it's digital and the rest you just push the button. I have one that's a dial. My very first air fryer that is like 10 years old, the gifted one I got, it's at my husband's work because I send in food and I know it will taste a lot better if he can air fry it. He will even toast his bread like in the air fryer because they don't have a toaster at work. The knob broke, like the plastic turny thing of the knob broke. So we literally have I think they use pliers. We literally use pliers just to turn to cook it, and literally it's still going strong. And that's 10 years old. Like Michelle said, probably a very basic brand. So the features will depend on your preferences. Do you need to cook two things at a time? Are you feeding a large group? Start, at what you can afford, and then see how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we've had the cheapest one. We haven't upgraded because we really haven't needed to. Yeah. So I think whatever works for you is going to be best. I'm not seeing any other questions. I think this is it as far as everyone else. I know that I've really enjoyed having you here, Trish. And if anybody else would like to share something that they enjoyed about this workshop or something that they learned about it, you can do so now in the chat. Anything that kind of jumped at you that was exciting. This may be fun for Trish to read later. I know you're too far away from the screen, so it's hard to see them right now.
Yeah.
But again, thank you all for being here today. Thank you, Trish, for all of your yummy food. I am salivating just like Amy was earlier. And I do look forward to cooking all three of these because they all look very, very delightful.
I do.
It was so fun being here. And yeah, I'm excited for you guys to try it and, share any feedback with Full Plate on what you like, what you'd like to see more of. And we'd love to come cook with you again soon.
Excellent. Thank you all. I hope that you have a great rest of your day.
Thank y'all. See you. Bye.
Bye.